All About You is exactly what it sounds like. A podcast dedicated to the interesting, the wonderful and the eclectic world of you. Past episodes have included a clairvoyant, an opera singer, and we have gone into the world of the gamer. I am your host Sheila. Now let's meet this week's guest. So Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here.
Well, I'm excited to hear all about your work because, Matt, we met at a quiz that happens every week in Valencia, and I know you have a very successful business as a web designer, but I didn't know you were an artist.
Yeah.
And you very kindly invited me along to your first exhibition in the summer, and I couldn't believe what I saw.
Thank you.
Your art is amazing. Let's get into this then. How did all this start? Were you arty as a child?
Not particularly, no. I did like drawings and sketches. My mother recently managed to finally throw away all of my childhood art, and I'm very happy about that because there are no redeeming features to it at all. If anybody ever starts a museum about me, that won't be in there. No, it was something, I'm trying to think, I think it probably goes back to, all right, this is a bit of a digression.
Okay.
A 1999 movie called Fight Club. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Heard of it, haven't seen it. It sounds a bit violent for me, Matt.
It's not really about fighting. It's this kind of sort of like a journey of self-discovery for the main character. He's trying to understand who he is. And it came out in like 1999. I was 25 at the time. And it really spoke to me. It really connected with me. I'm on this, if it doesn't sound too pretentious, this kind of lifelong voyage of self-discovery. I want to know everything about me. And there's a line in the movie where three of the characters, they think they're about to die, and one of them says, "What do you wish you'd done before you died?" And one of them replies, "Build a house," and the other one says, "Paint a self-portrait." And that always really stuck with me. Like the rest of the movie is bits of it are better and bits of it are worse. I'm not into the fighting part. But that always really got me. And kind of at the same time, I was thinking about what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And this is another digression, but we'll come back to it in a minute. When I was a kid, I used to really love those I Spy books. Do you know what they are?
I remember I Spy.
So they had like I Spy Insects and I Spy Train Journey and things. And I used to really love that gamification element of it. So it was, if you can spot I spy a 7-spot ladybird for 1 point. But if you like I spy a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis, 10 points. And that kind of like gamification, like turning fairly routine activities into games, could have been totally designed for me. I respond really well to that. And so when I was trying to decide what to do with my life, like generally, I thought about that kind of thing. And I started initially on paper, and then it became a website, obviously because I build websites, this I Spy book of my life, of all the things that I wanted to do in the rest of my life. And there are loads of different categories, and I'd be happy to walk you through some of them if you're interested. So it's things like visit the Taj Mahal for 3 points, or learn to go on a stone carving workshop, 4 points, those kind of things. And then there's some like more outlandish ones, like travel into space, 500 points, live to 100. I get a point for every year that I'm married to my wife.
Only 1 point?
Sure, but I've got a lot of points overall for that.
Yeah, no, I do know your wife, so I'll be chatting to her about this. I think she deserves a lot more than 1 point.
She deserves more than 1 point, yeah, but I only get one, yes.
Absolutely.
So I started off, I built this I Spy book of life, and I was like, all right, all the things that I want to do, things like, I used to have really bad teeth. They were all really wonky, from, classic British person with bad teeth. And so I put in there, like, fix my teeth. So I went and got braces, and I wore, like, really unpleasant, like, train track braces for 1.5 years. And I had them taken off, and now I've got lovely teeth. And I got, I think I got 15 points for that, because it was really quite a challenging thing. But, like, having this collection of stuff that I wanted to do, having a list really motivated me to start trying to work my way through it. So one of the things that I put on the list, going back to Fight Club, is paint a self-portrait. And I thought at the time, oh yeah, that would be a fun thing to do. And there's loads of other really frivolous things on the list. But that one kind of like, I've always been quite insecure about my own appearance. But if I'm like looking in the mirror, there's always a lot of things I'm like, oh, that looks a bit weird. And what about this? That might have been part of my motivation for fixing my teeth. That's an actual separate therapy session. I always thought it was really brave, very adventurous of people to be able to paint their own image, because you have to spend a long time looking at yourself and really looking at yourself in a lot of detail, and that always made me feel quite uncomfortable. when the second COVID lockdown started here in Spain in January 2021, I thought, okay, I mean, the previous lockdown we'd had, what was that, 100 days starting, like, the previous year, I really struggled with. I need to be outdoors a lot. I need to do a lot of exercise. And being contained in the house like that just ruined me mentally. And so when the next lockdown started, I thought, okay, I need a hobby. I need something that I can do indoors on my own that doesn't involve other people, that's going to really occupy me and take up a lot of my time. So I had a look through my I Spy Book of Life, and I'm like, all right, what's on this list that I can do? Okay, I could learn to play the piano. All right, yeah, maybe consider that. I guess it's quite expensive because you have to buy a piano, or I'd probably get an electric one because we live in an apartment. Or paint a self-portrait. And I was like, oh yeah, all right, I'll give that one a go. So I just started with some regular graphite pencils, and I drew myself every single day, like one portrait a day for about a month initially. And I thought, I'll just see what happens. The first sketch was really awful. I look more like a Simpsons character than I do me. And then, so I drew myself the second day. I was quite put off. When I finished the first one, I was like, oh, I'm never going to get the hang of this. But I carried on doing it, and after probably 5 or 6 days, I drew something that I was like, all right, I think that looks a bit like me. And then I kept on drawing it, because I had nothing else to do. And then after about 2 weeks, I discovered coloured pencils. I'd just been drawing in black and white, and as you can probably tell from my t-shirt, I'm a massive fan of colour. And so I bought some coloured pencils, and that just changed everything, because now I can get so much more detail into the pictures, and I can make it look much more like me. And then so I think it was mid-February, so I've been doing it for 6 weeks, before I did the first picture that I put the pencil down at the end. And I'm actually really happy with that. I think it looks like me, and I think it looks like the way I feel rather than just the way I look. When you're drawing people, you can draw them and look exactly how they look, but I don't find that very interesting. I think it's more interesting to paint them how I feel they are, which involves quite a lot more thought and a lot more depth. It's not just a photograph. I can take a picture of you in 5 seconds, but I can paint a picture of you in 10 hours that I hope you feel too, really expresses who you are in a very different way. Just drew myself for I think probably about 2 months initially, and then after that I got bored of drawing me. I thought if I drew a portrait that looked like me by the end of the year, I'd be really happy, and I'd done it within a couple of months. So I thought, all right, what's next? Where do I go with this? It gave me huge amounts of self-confidence. It really boosted my motivation. And I thought, okay, right, so I'll draw, the only other person in my house is my wife, Kat, so I'll draw her. So I drew her quite a lot. And I've discovered that I could draw other people. And that, again, gave me much more self-confidence. And it was this kind of real urge to draw. I could feel it all through my body that I had to just keep doing this. And I'd spend all my spare time drawing and drawing and drawing. And my portraits took longer and longer. So the first one, the one that I didn't like the very first day, was probably 45 minutes. And then by the end of February, I'm probably spending 2 or 3 hours a day drawing, but still trying to finish one portrait in a day. And then I quickly discovered that I could just make them take more than one day. I didn't have to finish them one a day. So then I started, they went up to 5-6 hours, done usually over a week or a couple of weeks. And I started messaging my friends and asking them to email photos to me, because it was still a lockdown and I couldn't go out and take photos of people. And so I drew my parents. I started drawing our immediate friends around here in Valencia. I drew loads of friends from back home. And over the course of the next 6 months, I just gained more confidence. I bought different kinds of coloured pencils. I discovered there's a huge range of options in different pencils. You've got very hard, waxy ones that do super tight lines, and you can get a huge amount of detail, but you don't get a lot of emotion in them. And then I found there are much more softer, waxy coloured pencils that allow you to smear out the colours more, and that's where I really started to love that I could make false colour pictures. I didn't have to just use people's actual skin tones. I could recolour the pictures in Photoshop or something, and then I could paint from that, draw from that. Once the lockdown lifted, I started going out and taking photos of people from around here and then drawing them, and then I moved up from A4 paper that I was starting out up to A3, and every time I discovered a new thing, it just made me more and more excited and more keen to see where I could push this and see what I could do with it. So it got to September 2021, so I've been drawing for 9 months by this point. And Kat, my wife, suggested, she's like, you should definitely have some kind of exhibition, no matter what it is. It can be just really basic. You've got to do something. You've got to show people these. One of our main social focuses is this cafe that we go to in Benimaclet, where loads of people come together to speak English. I'm quite good at speaking English. I'm not practicing. I'm helping other people. And outside the cafe, there's a whole load of trees in like a little plaza. So I just got some big steel wire and I ran some cables between two of the trees, and I made just like a space that I could hang pictures on. I hung probably, about 15 portraits of people who went to this event that we went to. So they were all there and they all got to see their pictures. And I took their photos of them next to their portraits. And then I gave all the pictures to the people who they were of. And it just, again, this was like a massive boost in my self-confidence and my like feeling like I could do it. I could really do this. So like, from then, a lot of people started saying, "Oh, how did you discover you had this amazing talent?" And it always made me laugh, and then it made me slightly angry because I don't think it was an innate talent in me. I don't think it was something that I've always been able to do that I just discovered. I think I just spent like hundreds of hours in 2021 sat there like with cramp in my hand because I'm drawing so hard, and I've got such a need to draw at this point. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. I mean, my burning question is, when you were drawing yourself, for that very first one, did you take a picture of yourself on your phone?
Yeah, I took a picture of myself, yeah. I've got like an SLR camera, so it takes much better pictures than my phone, much more detail and stuff, but I've only ever once tried to draw myself from life in a mirror, and it's just awful. It's not my thing. I mean, some people can sit down with a sketch pad in front of somebody and just go, "Oh, no, oh, that looks like you." That's not me at all. I learned that I'm a much more technical artist. If I'm honest, I'm still really uncomfortable even calling myself an artist.
This is an interesting question, because when I talk to people, they sort of say, "What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, no, I've got a podcast." "Oh, you're a podcaster." No, I'm not a podcaster.
Yeah.
"But you've got a podcast, you're a podcaster." No, a podcaster is all these people that
Isn't
are
that kind
making
of
millions
curry?
of pounds. Yeah, I'm not in that
No,
league.
no.
I don't make a penny, never will do. That's not what this podcast is about. Only the other day when I met a new group of people, and they said, "You've got to call yourself a podcaster," because I was at a book launch, and one of the questions I said to the author was, "When was the first time you sort of said, 'Yes, I'm an author,' either to yourself or to somebody else?" They went, "That's a really interesting question. That took a very, very long time." She said, "Do you call yourself a podcaster?" I went, "No." She said, "Well, why not? You've been doing it for 3 years, you've done 100 plus. At what point are you going to call yourself a podcaster?" And I said, "That's a very good question."
Yeah. It feeds into that, what's it called, imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
where you know,
exactly.
I mean, I clearly call you a podcaster.
You see, I wouldn't, but I'm happy to call you an artist. But this is the thing, isn't it? We are very happy to label people. "I think you're an artist, you're an author." But, "Oh, no, I'm not a podcaster." Well, why not? That's what you do. "Oh,
Yeah.
no. You know, whether it's imposter or whether we're like, "Oh, no," because it makes us look that, you know, we're bigging ourselves up, this sort of thing. I think it's very difficult for us to label ourselves with something that maybe is a little bit different. We're happy to say, "I'm an accountant, I'm a teacher, I'm a doctor." That's acceptable, but when it comes to sort of something a bit creative, we're a bit like, "Oh, no, really?"
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah. The majority of my work is just computer programming, and I'm happy to call myself a programmer. That's not a problem. I've been doing it for, 25 years. But another large part of my work is graphic design. And for some reason, and I still don't understand why, I'm less keen to call myself a graphic designer, even though I've been doing it for 25 years. I think I'm actually quite good at it. But there's something about that I don't feel comfortable describing myself that way.
I think it's paid work, we're happy to take the label. But if it's something creative, even if it is paid, I think we all struggle with, because it's something creative. Because if you have a chat to people, and I'm sure, you say to people, I can't draw. I say, podcast. Oh my God, I can't do technology. I couldn't ask anybody questions. We think it's the most natural thing in the world, and we love what we do. That's why we do it. But for a lot of other people, it's like, "Oh, no way, I can't draw a straight line." And I would put myself in that category as well.
I mean, I think I probably still say that for a lot of things. So I've got an awful lot of experience painting people. I've painted, I think I'm up to like 85 or 90 portraits that I've done, including all the ones that I did of myself early on. I've lost count of how many hours I've spent doing it in the last couple of years. But there's still, I mean, if you put like a bowl of fruit on the table and told me to draw it, I think I'd probably struggle.
I think the interesting thing about that though, Matt, if we were trying to, if somebody said, okay, I'm going to put an apple on the table, have a go. You've got coloured pencils, paint, whatever medium you want to make it, whatever you want. We'd all have a go, and I'm not saying it would be great, but if we put a person and said, okay, draw this person, I would say, I'm in the wrong class. I'll have a go at the apple, but no way am I going to have a go at drawing that person.
I'd be much more comfortable doing that. Even from life. Like I said, I never do portraits from life, but I've got a much better idea of how it works. Like now, having spent all this time doing it, I look at people's faces in a very different way. And I think before this, I used to think like, oh, that's an attractive person or that's not an attractive person. But now I think everybody's faces are fascinating. Everybody's got something on their face, or like the structure of it, or just the way that their like eyes sit underneath their eyelids, or all that kind of thing is absolutely fascinating to me. And I've stopped seeing anybody as unattractive just because I've never met anybody yet who I don't think would be interesting to paint in some way.
I think you came up with a very valid point earlier. We are all very self-critical. We're in the morning, washing our face, cleaning our teeth, fixing our hair, and we all look at, oh my God, I've got another wrinkle,
totally.
or I must get my hair cut, or I need a good shave if you're a man, all this sort of thing. We are very, very critical. We would never look and go, oh my God, I love the colour of my eyes, or I love that cute nose I've got, or I love that strong jaw. We would just rather pull ourselves apart.
Yeah.
So for you drawing yourself, and as you said right at the beginning of the conversation, you've always been a bit self-conscious. To lay yourself bare, to go, okay, you've taken the photo, I'm really going to look at the shape of my eyes, my nostrils, my jaw. That must have been pretty scary, I would have thought.
It was intimidating, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I had the courage probably isn't the right word. I was interested. I was more interested in trying to achieve this task and complete this than I was in feeling uncomfortable about looking at myself for a long time. And I think actually I've probably lost that uncomfortable of looking at myself in the mirror now. I spent such a lot of time staring at myself that I've almost forgotten what it was that I used to think was weird about the way I look. I'm sure you can tell me.
No, I can see that, because rather than looking at yourself thinking this isn't right, that's not right, you are looking at your face technically, shadow, shading, what you're going to bring out, you're looking at yourself technically as opposed to, am I a good looking guy, etc., etc. And I guess that just turns it on its head. Yeah.
And also I think spending a lot of time looking at other people and realising, like, I'd started drawing with a friend, and halfway through I'd realised I'd drawn one of his eyes slightly bigger than the other ones, and I'd be like, oh, but then I looked at the reference photos and then I met them up in real life. I'm like, oh no, actually one of his eyes is slightly bigger than the other one, and that made me feel a bit uncomfortable, because I'm like, all right, does he know that? I assume so. Do I need to change it so to make his eyes the same size? How's he going to feel about that if he does know his eyes are different size and he realises that I've drawn them the same size? There's been a lot of times where I've finished pictures of people and I've handed it over to them and they say something like, oh, you've made my nose look really big. And I have to really stop for myself from going, can I show you the reference photo? This is exactly how big your nose is.
I mean, that's a very valid point, isn't it? Because the way we perceive ourselves when we go out into the world, and not necessarily our appearance, but the way we conduct ourselves and the way somebody else does.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting information that people give away about themselves when you show them their picture and they say, oh, you've made me look, and then usually what comes out of their mouth next is the thing that they don't like most about their own appearance.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of psychology in this, isn't there?
I love it.
Because a lot of people just do not like having their photographs taken. A lot of people are very, very uncomfortable having their picture taken, full stop.
I've got a list on my phone one of the many lists on my phone is a list of people that I'm going to paint. So there's at the moment there's about half a dozen people on there. So when I finish the picture I'm working on now, I'll go and take some pictures of the next person, and I'll do them and work my way through the list. And I'm always adding new people onto the bottom as it comes up. And then there's another list of people who I'd really like to paint who haven't said yes yet. And some of those people were just like, no, you're not doing me. And so I'll put you to the bottom of the chase me list, and we'll come back and I'll ask you again in a couple of years. Because there are some people that I'd really love to paint. Most of the people that I've done portraits of have never had anyone paint their portrait before. And that, I think it's a really fascinating thing to get a picture of what somebody else thinks you look like. But I think there's a lot of psychology involved. There's a lot of discomfort among some people about the way they look, that they just refuse to let me do it.
I think there's one thing that I always think about portrait photography. I prefer black and white.
Oh, I hate black and white.
Because black and white to me it seems to bring out the character, the essence of that person. Whereas a colour picture, you're very much focused on maybe their hair, their eyes, what they're wearing, is there a background? But I'm thinking back to the old-fashioned black and white pictures. Mm-hmm. I think they are just magical. And whenever you're visiting someone and this was my grandmother. Right, okay, let me look at this picture. What do I think she was like? What was her personality? What was her life like? Tell me about her family. I wouldn't get that looking at somebody's holiday picture of them standing outside the Eiffel Tower. I wouldn't get that at all.
But it's a different kind of picture, isn't it? I think, are we talking about like Victorian photography, that sort of like...
Not necessarily,
but much more formally
black and
posed.
white to a colour picture.
I fundamentally disagree with you. I think holiday snaps are obviously very different to formal portraits. And I think in like the 1850s or whenever, we're talking about... That might be the only picture that anybody someone had taken during their entire life.
Expensive business.
And so there's a lot of, you're putting a lot of effort and a lot of your emotion into this picture.
And all the rest of it, yeah.
Whereas if I probably take, 30 photos a day now, and I didn't put any kind of effort like that into those pictures. Certainly when I try to take reference photos of people, I want to get that kind of intensity of these, I don't know, if we're going to say Victorian portrait photography into that. And I think there are still people doing it in black and white. There's a company in Bennymaclet that do wet colloidum process photography. I don't know if you've ever seen anything they do.
No.
It's incredible. So it's like proper old-fashioned 1800s technology. And the pictures they output are just beautiful. Because of the way the process works, they're slightly more sensitive to infrared than they are visible light. And so you can see a lot more of things like the freckles and the like marks on the skin. It's a photo of somebody and it was taken 15 minutes ago, but it looks like it was from the 1800s, and some of those are just beautiful.
It just breaks my heart that we are living in the Instagram society. And I walk along the beach here, and I am literally in the summer tripping over particularly young girls posing. 7:30 in the morning, we've got full makeup, hair, somebody's fanning the hair, and I think, oh my god, I haven't had my coffee yet, and and I just think that is so sad. They've obviously spent weeks in their bedroom finding the right outfit, the pose, somebody's fanning to get the air going through their hair.
Why is that sad?
I just think that's incredibly sad, because they are trying to create the perfect picture. Whereas if we just take a snap, it's real life. It's what you were doing at that moment. I always say with wedding photography, it's the ones where nobody knows what's going on, and you get those really funny, a picture tells 1,000 stories, as opposed to 2 hours posing on the beach.
Yeah, but that's only because you see them doing the prep for it. I bet those pictures, they're trying to look quite natural. I bet if you just saw the end result, if you look at like professional portrait photographers might spend, several hours setting up a shot, getting the lighting right, doing all the makeup and stuff. And it's kind of the same thing. I don't know. I didn't used to be a big fan of things like Instagram, but then I changed into thinking that every time you see those kind of photos, it's much more of a community thing. It's people coming along saying, yeah, I'm here too, I'm part of this. Here's a picture of me. I think feels much more social, I know it's called social media, than maybe this just kind of like obsession with the way you look. It's about taking part in something and all being in this big shared space together where you all take photos of each other. I can see you don't agree with me.
I don't, because, okay, you've created this wonderful image that you've done all the WYSIWYG stuff to, and then you're going to put it on and you're waiting for the likes. I think that you've done all this preparation and it's there for likes. It's not to give to your grandparents, it's not for your Christmas card, none of that. It's for likes, and I think that's where it goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, I realise that like dopamine fixation of oh look, I've got another one. Yeah, I don't think that's particularly healthy. No,
I'm not a great fan of that. Anyway, we are digressing. Okay. So let's talk about. I mean, how do you describe your style, or do you have a style?
Colourful is probably how I describe it.
Can we just mention the t-shirt?
Yeah.
I'm going to take a picture of this to go with the podcast. It's got a very nice bright pink background with donuts, and there is so much sort of sugar and E numbers in these donuts.
Yep.
It's just unreal. Yeah. I almost need my sunglasses.
That was actually my intention. It'd be a picture, a t-shirt that was slightly uncomfortable to look at because it was so bright. So if you want to get your sunglasses, I feel like a mission achieved. I have to
say, I'm not a fan of donuts anyway, especially not these ones with all the icing and the sprinkles on the top. But
it's a great subject for a podcast.
Absolutely it is. Yeah, we could do one on your t-shirt collection because you've got a few wild t-shirts.
Well, one of the other things that I'm doing, I'm thinking about starting an online t-shirt company as well. So I've been designing t-shirts for about 6 months. This is one of my favourites. But they're all very bright, very colourful, cartoony type things. And I don't know, I'm really enjoying it. Most of them are being designed with AI art tools. So this one, this was about 70 different cartoon donuts that I used a tool called Midjourney to make. And then I stitched them all together in Photoshop and turned them into a t-shirt.
We are correct in saying you are a colourful character.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So all my favourite pictures are ones where I've thrown away all the colour information from my photo. So I've made it black and white, essentially, which you like. But then I'm recolouring it, going from, say, like the dark colours might be purples and really deep reds, and the mid-greys are like oranges, that kind of like quite bright colour, and then the light colours are all very light yellows. So you still have all the same information. You can still see like the contrast, and you can see the dark areas and the light areas, but there's no real color information. So if I'm doing this process to you, for example, your eyes aren't going to be, what color are your eyes?
Hazel.
Okay, they'd probably be like fairly dark orange, for example. But it would work because I've recolored the entire picture. So that was when I discovered this was a thing that I could do in Photoshop. I was very excited, and then the next 20 pictures were all using the same process but using different colour palettes.
The interesting thing is you're talking about starting with t-shirts.
Yes.
I think particularly in the winter, particularly here in Spain, when you look in the shops now, you can have any colour you want as long as it's black.
My God. Actually, this is why I started designing my own t-shirts, because men's clothing's so boring.
And it's the same with women's. They are, particularly in Spain, I don't know in other European countries, they are frightened of colour. So when I'm walking down the road and I see somebody with a bright pink umbrella or a bright blue, I'm like, thank God. I mean, my trench coat is fuchsia pink.
Nice, I like it already.
And I love it because in the winter, we need colour. So why all the manufacturers think when it's, cold and grey and wet and miserable, why can't we have orange and lime green and turquoise? I would be the first person to run out and buy an orange umbrella.
And yet you like black and white photography. I can't believe it.
I like black and white photography. It tells a story, but I'm just thinking walking down the street. So I think you definitely need to think about umbrellas is a great one.
Okay, so these are all made by a company in Latvia. So I'm not actually doing any of the manufacturing. They're all made to order. So this is something I really love about this idea of starting a store, is that there's no wastage. So it's not like you have to get loads made in different styles and colours. If the store sends the order off to this industrial printing company, they make one t-shirt or one umbrella. I'm not sure if they make umbrellas. They do like hoodies and shorts and lots of different things.
Suggest it.
Well, I'll see. And then they manufacture that and then they post it out to the person. And the whole process is about a week. It's not wildly longer than if you had stock anyway, but I love the idea of this like zero wastage process. So yeah, all right, I'll see if they do umbrellas.
I think you need to be on a mission to make the world a more colourful place.
I think I am.
Because if you think about it, you know, we see somebody, and I know when we go to the quiz, everybody comments on your T-shirts.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, look, wow, he's not just wearing a white T-shirt or a black T-shirt. Colour. We need colour in our lives.
Totally.
It's so important. It just gives you that lift. Oh my God, I need to talk to this guy. Why is this guy wearing this orange T-shirt with donuts? But colour is so important, and particularly in the winter.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and in the summer too. I think it's an all year round thing, especially living here.
Yeah, I think the Spanish are pretty good in the summer, but not so good in the winter.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll start a campaign.
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
I think we should. I'd definitely be behind you on that one. We're saying your art is colourful.
Yes, very much so, yes. What I quite like is flat, very bright backgrounds. So typically like greens and blues or oranges, yellows, those kind of things. I'm more happy if the person's face takes up almost the entire canvas. I've tried painting ones where you paint like a bit more of their torso or there's a bit more space in the picture, but it feels like a waste to me. I feel like I just want to get them as big as possible and as colourful as possible to make it work.
I have to say, when I came to the exhibition, you did an amazing thing, because there was a lot of the people who portrait you had painted, they were physically there.
Yeah, I was really excited that they turned up, yeah.
And I have to say, I went a bit mad saying, would you mind standing next to your pictures?
Oh, did you get some shots of them?
Yeah, I did. And then you also made us some masks of those people, so we could stand next to the portrait with the mask of that person. Very, very clever. I thought that was absolutely great.
Thanks.
One question, Matt. What did you learn about yourself while doing this? And I'm not talking about technically learning about pencils and paper and light, but what did you learn about yourself
during the whole process?
Journey?
Yeah. Not specifically about the exhibition?
Yeah.
Okay. I learned that all the limits that I place on myself are just those, they're my limits. The more I tried and the more I did it, the more I realised that I could do it, and the more I realised I could do other things as well. I think in general, this I Spy Book of Life that I started has been really good for my motivation. When I was younger, I always felt like, how do I describe it? That there was me and there was the world, and there wasn't a huge amount of like interaction or back and forth between those two things. And then as I started doing more and more things, I realised that I could interact with the world much more intensely, I suppose. And as I do more of these things, like when I discovered that people would let me have an exhibition of my work, I was like, oh right. And so it's changed me in that I feel much more motivated to do things. I feel I've got a lot more self-confidence that I can do things. And it's made me realise that I can play in the world in a much more fun and engaging way. That a lot of the way that I see people, I'm not talking about you, existing in the world is very much like sitting there and watching TV. So the TV's like coming at them and they're just this passive absorber for it. And I've come to realise as I get older that that's not what I want at all, and that I can have this much more like, I can be in the TV and I can be like messing about with it and taking it apart and making my own TV, and there's so much to life. It's almost overwhelming sometimes to think like all the things that I could do, all the things that I want to do, and every time I do something else it makes me want to do 10 other things, and I know I'm never going to get to the end of my list. I'm kind of inspiring myself, auto-inspiring. Maybe we should coin a new phrase.
I mean, I think that there's 2 points there, isn't there? I mean, you've obviously gone down this journey of, as you say, really wasn't sort of into art or drawing as a child. So you've explored something completely different. So let's have a go, let's push myself, let's see where this can go. And you've been on this incredible journey, and you've just produced some incredible art.
Yeah, I'm really happy with I'm amazed when I look at some of the things that I've made. I'm like, wow, I did that.
But also, you've been on this personal journey, and I love the way you said, you're the one that's put the limitations on your abilities and experiences, and you are the one that can almost give yourself permission. Well, have a go, let's see what happens, have a play. And you've gone along this journey. So I think the art maybe how it started out,
Mm-hmm.
and then the art went down one track, but parallel to that, you are going down and discovering yourself as well. You know, this work, okay, let's have a go at something else, and opened up the world.
Yeah,
as you say.
It's made me a lot more fearless, a lot less fearful. Yeah, I feel I could do pretty much anything now and make like a reasonable go of it.
I think this is the thing, isn't it? We all have fears about various things, but sometimes when we just say, okay, realistically, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, you look stupid, it doesn't work out, you know, as long as you don't lose body parts or money, then you're okay.
Even then, I mean,
yeah,
if it's a good experience.
It's not the end of the world, is it? But when we do accomplish that thing, oh my God, we think we can, you know, walk on water.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's the kind of feeling. Yeah, that's.
And it's like, okay, I've overcome that, and it might be a small thing, it might be a big thing, but it gives you that, okay, well, what else can I? And it's almost giving yourself this self-permission to have a go. And I love this have a play. It
feels very playful, my life now, in comparison to when I was a kid.
I think that's a big difference. When we are a kid, it's about play and discovery. When we get older and start paying taxes, that all disappears, doesn't it? It's like, oh, I've got to do this job and I look after my family and blah, blah. It's like, oh no, you know, I've got to do everything perfectly. It's rather like learning Spanish, you know. Why don't I get this straight away? No, you've got to be. And I say with Spanish, it makes you become a 5-year-old toddler. You know, you're very, very capable of having opinions and communicating your own language. In another language, you're like a 5-year-old toddler. You're back to ball, blue and cat.
Yeah.
And that's hard for a capable adult.
And it's that real like fear of failure as well. I think this is what held me back for a long time, and probably what holds back a lot of people is like talking about Spanish in particular. When before we moved here, I thought, oh, I'm quite good at Spanish. We've been doing classes for a while. I had a GCSE. Like we got here, and then I was like, I could barely say anything in public. I was really aware of every time I made a mistake. I'd always go back. I'd like start a sentence, get halfway through it, realised I'd used the wrong tense, or you know I should be talking in the subjunctive or whatever. Go back and try and correct myself, and I wouldn't make any sense. And it took a really long time for me to lose that fear. Actually, one of the things that really helped there, we went to see Eddie Izzard, you know, the British comedian.
Yeah.
We went to see him in 2017 performing his routine in Spanish. And when we turned up, his Spanish was about as bad as mine, but he's doing stand-up in it. And it was inspiring, like really. I thought, if he can do this in a room with 200 people in it, I can probably like order food in a restaurant or something without any problems.
I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? Well, you know, we might speak in Spanish, think, oh my God, we made a right hash of that. Other people are thinking, oh my God, I couldn't do that. That person is so brave. We're just thinking, oh God, I made a real hash. But majority of the other people are thinking, there's no way I could do that.
I think honestly, most people could do most things if they try. I think a lot of what's stopping people doing stuff is just themselves. I think anybody could paint in the way that I paint if they put in the same amount of effort.
I mean, they do say, don't they, to sort of, they say to be an expert, it's like 10,000 hours.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet.
And, you know, whether that's kicking a ball, whether that's cooking the perfect cake or whatever, most of us just want to have a go, have a play. I mean, YouTube is great. Let's just, whatever you want. Someone on YouTube will show you how to do it. It might take 3 or 4 attempts and it might not be perfect, but, you know, you've got the ideas of how to do it. We're just not good as adults in having a go.
Yeah, no, you're right.
We're just rubbish at it. Just have a go, see what happens, explore, mess about. We're just not great at that, are we? No,
you're right. And I don't know why. I think maybe just that sense of playfulness is beaten out of people as they get older, or they just don't have time. Or have you ever heard of the 80-20 rule? Do you know what that is?
Oh, Pareto principle, yeah, love it.
Is that what it's called? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm a devotee to this.
Do you want to explain what that is?
Okay, so it's that in terms of learning any new skill, you can do the easy part of it is 20% of the effort, and you get 80% of the enjoyment out of it. is how I describe it. And then to really master it, to do the final 20% of that skill or that whatever you're learning, is then takes the other 80% of the time. So you can learn a new skill really quickly, and you can get to a point where you're really enjoying it in a short amount of time, but then to get better after that really tails off, and it takes years and years. I took up target shooting many times. I had a lot of hobbies. And I thought it's a really interesting thing. So you're lying down, you've got a rifle, shooting at paper targets 20 meters away, and it's kind of a competition in who can be the most calm, because you want to get your heart rate really low to stop your arms twitching. You want to get everything as gentle as possible, control your breathing, and then in between two breaths, when the rifle's not moving, that's when you pull the trigger. And I started doing it, and this is like what's called the Pareto principle, absolutely in action. So I started off doing it, and I really enjoyed it, and my skill went like right up through the roof, and I went from getting maybe like 65 out of 100 in the first night I went, to getting up to like 92, 93 out of 100, and I'm where almost all the bullets are going through right in the black bit in the middle of the target. And I was talking to some of the old boys who were there. There were some guys in their like mid-70s, and they were getting 98, 99 out of 100 regularly. And this is incredible. They're very calm. But I was talking to them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've been coming here twice a week for the last 50 years." And at that point, I remember having this conversation with one of the guys, thinking, "I'm just going to stop doing it now, because I feel like I've done the fun part. I've done the easy 80, and now I've got like the mountainous 20 in order to actually get really good." And this is a real theme of my life. Like, I'm never going to be an Olympic athlete. I'm probably never going to be like an award-winning portrait painter, because I love that easy 80 to get suck all the marrow out of it, like really squeeze all the enjoyment out of it, and then think, okay, right, I feel like I've done that to the limit of what I'm comfortable with. I'm going to go on to something else now, because there's always a million other things that I want to do.
I mean, one way I used to describe the Pareto principle, which is the 80-20,
Mm-hmm.
we wear 20% of the clothes in our wardrobe 80% of the time.
Is that true?
That is so true. When you get dressed tomorrow, look in your wardrobe, and I'm sure even with your vast colourful t-shirt, you'll probably find there's a small selection you will pick every time, as opposed to all the others.
You're making me really want to start a spreadsheet of all my clothing and when I wear all of it.
And it's basically the same with everything.
Okay.
If you think of meals, we're probably eating the same sort of 4 or 5 meals. It's like, Friday spaghetti bolognese night, or Monday something quick. We are very much, and you apply this to so many things, the Pareto principle, but the wardrobe, really, I guarantee you'll go, oh my God, she's right. Send me a message tomorrow, trust me,
okay.
I will be right.
I'll have a look.
We are digressing.
No, but the food thing's really interesting. I just read a very interesting book called Food for Life by Tim Spector. He's a British nutritionist, and he was saying that you can really improve your health by trying to eat at least 30 plants a week, 30 different kinds of plants. Because I think previously, you're right, we'd just have, it's pasta and red sauce, pesto, whatever. Yeah. But a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I had this competition to see who could eat the most different plant species in a week. So we're like going to the supermarket, or like the fruit and veg shop, and finding like the weirdest things in the corner and going, I don't even know what this is, but I'm going to buy it, because then I get to have another one on my list. This is another example of gamifying something. About if you turn it into a game, I'm much more likely to do it. We got to 62 different things by the end of the week, and I was like, hey, brilliant, that's really good. So I'd love to not apply this 80-20 rule to food, because I think the more different, the more variety of stuff that I can eat, the better.
I mean, I'm plant-based.
Okay.
And the problem is my salads are so big because I do what they call eat the rainbow.
Yeah.
Red tomatoes, deep red beetroot, yellow sweet corn, slices of orange, etc., etc. And then it's it could feed 4 people quite easily.
Okay, but you're probably getting 30 in a meal by the sound of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So eating the rainbow, and I've got in the thing now, I'm making fruit salad, because I'm not very good at eating pieces of fruit. I'll buy it and it will just sit there in the dish.
Okay.
I changed my mindset. Okay, I need to eat more fruit. How can I do this? Why am I walking past the fruit dish 25 times a day and not eating fruit? So I decided to have a chop-a-thon. I went and bought 2 oranges, 2 kiwi, some grapes, an apple, and I did chop, 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 put it in a lovely big glass container with a lid, and I've got these beautiful layers. And I'll just give it a good shake, squeeze of lime. It's turned into a cookery competition. Squeeze of lime, give it a good shake, and then I'll just go and pour a sort of a small bowl, and I'll sit and have that at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But there's like 4 or 5 different fruits, and as it sort of goes through the week, it gets more juicy, the flavours come out. And do you know what? I'm eating more fruit than I ever would have done if it just sat in a dish. And the difference is I've changed my mindset. I'm just spending 10 minutes, put a podcast on, chop, 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 chop. Beautiful glass dish. I believe that the dish you put it in is very important. Don't put it in a plastic one. Nice glass one, you can see all the colours, the beautiful ruby of the plum, you know, the yellows and the greens. Put it in the fridge, give it a good old... And then you have a little bit of fruit salad every day.
I think the problem is I just eat the whole thing on the first day.
I don't think you would, actually.
I'll give it a go.
Well, the thing is with fruit, I mean, you're into nutrition. We are digressing, but...
It's fine.
The thing is with fruit, we are supposed to eat fruit on an empty stomach.
Right.
Because fruit should go in your mouth and come out the other end as quick as possible. It's when it sits in your stomach on top of carbohydrate, protein, fruit ferments.
Okay.
And you know what happens if you leave fruit in your bin for a little while? It gets a bit stinky and fruit flies. We don't want that happening in our stomach.
Okay.
So ideally, fruit for breakfast. You've got an empty stomach, you've had nothing to eat the night before. You eat the fruit, the body will take all the minerals and nutrition from that fruit, and it comes out as nature intended. Nothing is fermenting in the stomach.
Okay.
But particularly here in Spain, it's quite normal to have a piece of fruit for dessert. So that's sitting on top of your salad, your fish, your meat, your pulses and all the rest of it. And it's going to ferment. It's not great.
Okay.
So fruit on an empty stomach.
You need to start another podcast.
Well, I mean, I could talk for hours and hours and hours about nutrition. But just for me, instead of walking past the fruit bowl, ignoring the fruit and it all going mushy, it's now beautifully in a lovely glass container, and it's a joy. And just from literally overnight, I'm eating my fruit quite happily.
Okay, brilliant.
There we go.
Keep it up.
Okay, last question before we digress yet again. Okay, what are your arty plans for the future?
Ooh.
Apart from the list on your phone.
Okay, apart from the other people I want to paint. So I had this exhibition in July at an actual art gallery I was so excited about. Thank you guys in Bloom. And I met a lot of actual artists there, actual artists, like people who are doing it for money rather than me. And they were so complimentary, and they gave me like loads of ideas, and they said, oh, have you ever done this? Have you ever tried that? So there's lots of different ideas about trying different things. So I want to try painting a lot bigger. Most of my pictures at the moment maybe 40 centimetres square. That's kind of a typical one. And people were saying, oh, you should try painting a whole person at life size. So I'm going to see if I can get like a couple of 2-metre canvases and paint an entire person. Because up to now, I've never painted anything below like a collarbone. So I'm interested in doing that. I'm much more interested in trying much bolder things. I'm really interested in trying to do more real colour painting. So most of my pictures are like false colour, like very, very colourful, like rainbow sort of things. And I'm interested to see if I can paint in real colour. So I'm going to try some of that too. I don't really have any fixed plans in terms of like, this is a definite way that I want to go, but I'm much more interested in exploring lots of different things, being bolder, like letting go a lot more. Up to now, it's been very technical, very tightly controlled. The focus has always been on trying to do a likeness that's as close to the real person's face as possible. And I think I need to let go of that a little bit. This is certainly what my painting teacher tells me. And then the other thing, I'd really love to try and take part in the Royal Academy Summer Exhibition next year. Because I didn't realise until this year that you can just apply as like a normal person.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So my aunt, she's really into drawing as well. And I'm trying to persuade her. I don't think she's got the confidence to do it necessarily. But we've made a pact that we're both going to apply next year and see if we get in.
Well, no, I didn't know that. I thought that was...
You just, you apply, you send them a couple of photos of your work, and then over the course of the next, 8 months, I think the deadline's in December, I might be wrong, they choose who's going to be in there, and if they select you, then you actually send them your paintings, and they put them up in the gallery.
Oh my God.
Are you going to reply?
No, of course I'm not, no. No, I'm one of these people that I can't even draw a straight line without a ruler, but
Okay.
yeah. No, I do appreciate art, and I'm actually trying to learn a lot more about art, because we go to a quiz, and when an art question comes out, we all sort of look at each other blankly.
Oh, right, okay.
So I'm like, okay, there is so much information on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about particular artists in 15 minutes, which is great, bite-sized chunks. So, yeah, I'm getting more of an appreciation for art, I have to say. But no, I don't think it's going to be one of the things I'm going to explore.
Never say never.
That is very true. That's very true. Well, Matt, thank you so much for being a guest on
It's been a pleasure.
About You podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please subscribe for future episodes on whatever platform you are listening on. It is free. And if you have a story to tell, please contact me on allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com, and let's get your story told.